It is true that the presidential election was generally seen to be free, fair, and peaceful.
Imagine waking up in a country where, for once, everything seemed to go right. The people came out, they voted peacefully, the process worked, the nation was hopeful. And for a brief moment, it looked like Nigeria had finally found its democratic footing. Then, just like that, the whole thing was taken away. That is the story of June 12th, 1993.
However, there was in fact a huge array of election malpractices virtually in all the states of the Federation before the actual voting began.
An election many Nigerians still call the freest and fairest in the country's history. An election that produced a clear national choice. An election that united Nigerians across religion, ethnicity, and region. And yet, an election that never saw daylight. Because the votes were cast, the winner was clear. But the mandate was buried. Today, we are telling the story of June 12th. Its origin, how it happened, what led to it, why it was annulled, how it changed Nigeria, and what lessons the country must never forget. And yes, we will also make reference to public records, unclassified reports, memoirs, tribunal records, and later declassified diplomatic perspectives, while being careful not to turn rumors into facts. To understand June 12th, we cannot begin with the annulment. We have to begin with a Nigeria that was tired. Tired of military rule, tired of transition programs that never ended, tired of promises without delivery, tired of politics without trust. Because by 1993, Nigerians were not just looking for an election, they were looking for a way out.
We don't want Babangida again, and we want MKO.
Who's MKO?
Abiola.
By the late 1980s and early 1990s, Nigeria had been under military rule for years. General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, IBB, had come to power in 1985 after removing Muhammadu Buhari in a coup. Babangida was smart, politically calculating, and in many ways more sophisticated than earlier military rulers. He talked reform, he talked transition, he talked democracy. But there was a problem. Under Babangida, the road to democracy always seemed to move, and then somehow move again. Every time Nigerians thought civilian rule was close, the process stretched. New timetable, new program, new structure, new promise. And people began to suspect that the transition itself was becoming a strategy for remaining in power.
We have come with the strongest determination to create an atmosphere in which positive efforts shall be given the necessary support for lasting solutions.
Babangida's transition program was one of the most controlled political experiments in Nigerian history. Political parties were first banned, old politicians were pushed aside. Then, instead of allowing Nigerians to form their own parties freely, the government created two parties by decree. One was the Social Democratic Party, SDP, the other was the National Republican Convention, NRC, and Nigerians joked that the government had created a little to the left and a little to the right. Think about that. A military government telling a whole country what its political options were. Still, Nigerians participated. Because after years of uncertainty, people were willing to work with whatever structure might finally return the country to civilian rule. Then came one of the most important figures in this story, Chief Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, MKO. Abiola was not just a politician, he was already famous, a wealthy businessman, a philanthropist, a man with national visibility, a Muslim from the southwest, a public figure who had built relationships across Nigeria, and that mattered, because Nigeria in 1993 was deeply familiar with suspicion, ethnic suspicion, regional suspicion, religious suspicion. But Abiola somehow managed to look bigger than his region. He was not the perfect politician. No one is. But he had reach, he had recognition, he had resources, and most importantly, he had a kind of national acceptability that was rare. The presidential race eventually came down to two main men, MK Abiola of the SDP and Bashir Tofa of the NRC. Now here is where the story gets really interesting. Abiola was a Muslim from the southwest. His running mate, Babagana Kingibe, was also a Muslim. Today, a Muslim-Muslim ticket would trigger major national debate. But in 1993, many Nigerians focused more on competence, coalition building, and the need to leave military rule behind. That tells you something important. At that moment, the hunger for democracy was stronger than many of the divisions politicians often exploit today. And on the other side, Bashir Tofa also had support, especially from parts of the north, so this was a real contest. But what made June 12th historic was not only who contested, it was how Nigerians voted. June 12th, 1993 was different. The election used the Option A4 system, where voters lined up behind the symbol of their preferred candidate or party. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but it made fraud harder in some ways and created a visible, transparent process at the polling level. People showed up, and against all expectations, the election was peaceful. No widespread chaos, no major nationwide violence, no dramatic collapse of logistics. For once, Nigerians saw an election that felt like their own. You could feel the hope in the air. This was not just another election. This was supposed to be the turning point. One of the biggest reasons June 12th remains powerful is that it broke the usual Nigerian political pattern. Abiola did not only perform well in the southwest, he drew support from many parts of the country. That is what made the election feel different. It was one of those rare Nigerian moments when people seemed to vote not just as ethnic blocs, but as citizens hoping for change. And that is why many people still say June 12th showed the Nigeria that could have been. A Nigeria where competence and hope defeated division. A Nigeria where democracy actually looked possible. As results started coming in, one thing became clear. MKO Abiola was winning. Not narrowly, not ambiguously, clearly. He was leading in important states, including some outside his home region. He even performed strongly in places where many people assumed he had no natural base, and that was politically significant. Because it meant June 12th was not just a regional victory, it was looking like a genuine national mandate. But then the trouble started. Before the final declaration could settle fully, dark clouds began to gather. Court cases appeared, political pressure increased, there were warnings, petitions, and elite maneuvers. Some groups argued the election should not continue. Some claimed irregularities. Others feared what an Abiola presidency might mean for military interests, entrenched power networks, and those who did not want to lose influence. This is where public and unclassified records become useful. Later memoirs, interviews, commission findings, judicial records, and declassified foreign diplomatic views all suggest that June 12th was not killed by the ordinary voter. It was killed by elite fear. Fear of losing power, fear of exposure, fear of change, fear of what a true democratic handover might unleash. Then it happened. The election was annulled, just like that.
It is true that the presidential election was generally seen to be free, fair, and peaceful. However, there was in fact a huge array of electoral malpractices virtually in all the states of the Federation before the actual voting began.
The people voted. The result was clear. But the state refused to honor it. If you want a simple sentence to describe June 12th, it is this: Nigeria held a successful election, then refused to accept its own success. Babangida's government argued that the election had problems, but for many Nigerians, that explanation never made sense, because if there were problems, why allow the process to go that far? Why let people vote? Why let results emerge? Why wait until the country had already seen its own democratic possibility? The answer, many people believe, is simple, because the real issue was never the process. The real issue was the outcome. So why was June 12th annulled? Let's be honest. There is no single explanation everyone agrees on, but the major reasons usually discussed are these. 1. Military power interests. Some people within the military establishment were not ready to give up control. 2. Elite political fear. There were concerns from powerful interests who feared what Abiola might do if he entered office. 3. Internal regime division. Not everyone around Babangida agreed on the transition or its endpoint. 4. Fear of exposure. A real civilian government may have reopened questions about corruption, abuse of office, or hidden political arrangements. 5. Miscalculation. It is also possible Babangida believed he could manage the backlash better than he actually could. Now, on the issue of classified and unclassified reports, here is the responsible way to frame it. There is no need to pretend we have one magic secret file that explains everything. But public accounts, unclassified reports, memoirs and later declassified diplomatic interpretations all point to the same broad truth. June 12th was derailed by power politics at the top, not by the Nigerian people at the bottom. After the annulment, Babangida tried to explain himself, but by then, many Nigerians were no longer listening with trust. And that is one of the deepest lessons of June 12th. When a government destroys trust, even its explanations begin to sound hollow. People felt betrayed, not because politicians disappointed them. Nigerians were used to that. But because for once the system had actually worked, and then the system itself destroyed the result. That cut deep. The annulment triggered outrage, protests broke out, civil society groups mobilized, pro-democracy movements became stronger, the media became more confrontational, Nigeria entered another period of instability, Lagos especially became a center of anger and resistance. This was no longer just about one politician. It became about something bigger. If votes do not count, what exactly is the point of democracy? And once people begin to ask that question seriously, the legitimacy of the state itself begins to shake. MKO Abiola became more than a candidate after June 12th. He became a symbol of a stolen mandate, a symbol of interrupted democracy, a symbol of what Nigeria denied itself. And eventually, he would insist on that mandate. That insistence placed him directly in confrontation with the state. The election had been annulled, but the memory of the mandate could not be annulled.
Until the military released the result of the June 12 election and put the democratically elected president, who is myself, in charge of affairs.
The annulment did not restore stability. Instead, it created more chaos. Babangida eventually stepped aside and handed power to an interim national government led by Ernest Shonekan. But the interim government was weak from birth. Why? Because it was standing on broken legitimacy. It was not the product of June 12th. It was the product of June 12th's destruction. and Nigerians knew it. That government was soon swept aside by General Sani Abacha in November 1993. So in a painful way, June 12th did not only kill a democratic moment, it also opened the road to one of Nigeria's darkest military regimes. When Abacha took power, the June 12th struggle did not disappear. Abiola later declared himself president based on the mandate he believed Nigerians had given him. For that, he was arrested and detained. And that is one of the most tragic parts of the June 12th story. A man Nigerians believed had won an election was imprisoned instead of inaugurated. That single fact tells you how deep the national wound was. June 12th was not just stolen from Abiola, it was stolen from Nigerians. The impact of June 12th on Nigeria was massive. 1. It destroyed trust in the military transition process. Many Nigerians concluded that military rulers could not be trusted to supervise democracy honestly. 2. It strengthened the pro-democracy movement. Groups, activists, journalists, and ordinary citizens became more determined. 3. It deepened regional bitterness, especially in the southwest. Many Yorubas saw the annulment as not only anti-democratic, but also a betrayal of one of their own. 4. It set off a chain of events that helped produce the Abacha era. And we know what that meant: repression, detentions, fear, and delayed democracy. 5. It made June 12th a permanent symbol, not just of an election, but of a national possibility denied. Now let's come back to the classified and unclassified angle. For a serious documentary, we should say this clearly. We do not need conspiracy to understand June 12th. The public record is already powerful enough. There are unclassified government records, public speeches, court documents, memoirs of key figures, later interviews, political biographies, and accounts from journalists and participants. There are also later diplomatic interpretations and declassified foreign perspectives that help show how outside observers saw the confusion, elite struggle, and legitimacy crisis. And across those sources, one broad pattern keeps appearing. The annulment was not an accident. It was not a technical glitch. It was a political decision. That is the key point. Some people hear June 12th and think, that was long ago. But June 12th is not over. It still matters because it asks questions Nigeria has not fully answered. Do votes really count? Can institutions defend the people's choice? Do powerful people accept defeat? Can democracy survive elite sabotage? Can national unity survive repeated injustice? Every election in Nigeria is still haunted by June 12th in one way or another, because June 12th taught Nigerians that even a good election is not enough if the powerful refuse to respect it. So how can Nigeria learn from June 12th? Lesson 1. Respect the vote. No democracy survives if elections are treated like suggestions. Lesson 2. Build strong institutions. A country cannot depend on the goodwill of one ruler. Courts, electoral bodies, legislature, and media must be strong enough to resist manipulation. Lesson 3. Transparency matters. When decisions are made in secrecy, suspicion grows. Nigeria must keep electoral processes open, clear, and accountable. Lesson 4. Democracy must be bigger than personal interests. No leader or clique should be more important than the people's will. Lesson 5. Civic memory is important. Young Nigerians must know this history. A nation that forgets June 12th may repeat June 12th in another form. Lesson 6. National unity must be built on justice. People can manage diversity. What they cannot manage forever is injustice. June 12th is one of those days that never really ended. Yes, the date passed. Yes, the election was annulled. Yes, Abiola died. Yes, military rule eventually ended. But the meaning of June 12th kept growing. It became memory, then symbol, then warning, then national reference point. That is why when Nigeria later recognized June 12th officially as Democracy Day, it was about more than a calendar change. It was an acknowledgement that the country owed something to that day, to the voters, to the struggle, to the broken promise, to the man who never sat in the office many believed he won. June 12th was the election that never saw daylight. The people voted, the nation chose, hope arrived, and then power shut the door. But in a strange way, June 12th did not die, because even though the result was buried, the meaning survived. It survived in the protests. It survived in the memory of MKO Abiola. It survived in the pro-democracy struggle. It survived in the eventual return to civilian rule. And it survives today every time Nigerians insist that their votes must count. So when we remember June 12th, we are not only remembering a stolen election, we are remembering a warning that democracy can be delayed, it can be manipulated, it can be wounded, but if people keep demanding it, it can also endure. And maybe that is the deepest lesson of all. A mandate can be suppressed, but the truth of a people's choice is much harder to bury. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to Nigerian Encyclopedia for more deep stories about the people, events, and turning points that shaped Nigeria. And in the comments, tell us, do you think Nigeria has truly learned the lesson of June 12th?